Well, hello again. Welcome back to Martha's Vineyard, where we're about to depart and return to Portland, Maine. That, of course, is the mighty SAAB. I think I might have gotten the autopilot working, and maybe even the Garmin working, but it is hard to say for sure. We've got a route plugged in here, which is going to take us to Peak, then onto the 167 airway, the Victor 167 to Kennebunk, and then we're going to fly the runway 29 ILS arrival. The wind is nil in Portland, so we're going to come in over the water because it's early evening. We don't want to disturb anybody. I've had problems getting the autopilot to couple to the navigation system, and as you can see here, it looks like it has again. This may not work, especially with the flight director, which seems to be delinquent, and I'm not entirely sure why. But we're going to give it a shot. I managed to make some tweaks to my yoke configuration so that the autopilot actually works, or seems to work. In any case, what we're going to do is pretty much get our young asses out to the runway here and try and get a flight in before it all blows up again, which is what it did earlier this afternoon when I tried to fly the exact same flight. What happened was the HSI stopped giving a deviation indicator, a CDI. The autopilot stopped coupling to it. The flight director started to simply mimic the way I was steering, which of course is not hardly what you'd want. So I'm not entirely sure that this is going to work. So let's just cross our fingers here. Get our CTOT there, and our auto coursing. Our panel is clean. I can't get this Garmin to work on here. It boots up and then it displays a black screen. I mean, there's all sorts of things that are probably just a little bit squidgy about all this, so that's probably one of them. As you can see, the CDI looks like it's probably deflected, but you can also see that the flight director just seems to be glued to our particular ADI, which is not the way it should be, obviously. But I found that was the problem. It simply followed whatever I flew, which of course is not right. We're clear to cross 3-3, so we will, but we'll just take a quick look here. We're going to try and make this quick flight, also sort of grapple with some of the flight dynamics of this peculiar but lovely airplane. It includes having all of the course and heading indicators down here, which is right where a SAAB automobile would happen to have its ignition key. So let's just see what we got here. I'm already worried because if I flip here into a VLOC, I've got Marconi tuned up, but I'm not getting a CDI on it. I'm not getting an ADF on it or an RMI reading on it, even though we should be visible to it. Maybe not. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. But we're going to depart out of here in heading mode, and the heading we're going to set is 236, which is runway heading. And it looks like we got a little bit of wind here. And I'm in heading mode, and this flight director should be deviated, at least I think it should be. do what we can. We should really set an altitude here. Let me just hold short line here. Get ourselves into ground idle here. On comes the parking brake. You can see that our distance to peak, our first waypoint, is correct here, so it seems to be drawing from the right source, but it doesn't seem to be doing all the right things with it. So, be that as it may, auto coursing is on, heats are on. We're going to do this with the leads off, actually, because it's a short runway. Everything else looks good there. Trim is set, flaps are set, props are max, flaps are 15, transponder is on altitude, yes, autopilot is not armed, CTOT is armed 100, and I think that officially renders us good to go. Just see if this works. I'm already leery because the flight director should be deflected for runway heading. CTOT is engaged. That's continuous torque on takeoff. We're going to rotate at about 115 because we are not exactly sprightly in the performance department. Yeah, you see what's happening is look at the flight director. It's moving exactly with where we're going, so that's bullshit. All right, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, damn it, this thing just flies too nice. Oh, so nice. Let's do this. Let's return to base here. Ourselves into a crosswind pattern. We'll land. We will reload the airplane. See, look at that. The flight director is just bobbing up and down. Speaking of bobbing up and down, so are we. All right, we will come back around to land here and then reload the airplane. And I'll just cut the video. But at least we'll get a landing in out of this. The other thing we'll do is just cancel that and see where we are. Little more beans because we have to maneuver here. We'll land at flaps 25. We're already geared down. We were never gear up. least we'll get to practice some procedures here. Come down to about 40% torque. We're going to land at about 25% torque. So I have to be able to slow down here. It's going to fly out to the water. Wait a minute. I can already see one of our problems here. My trim is now changing my heading, which is crazy. I'm sitting here trying to trim and I'm moving my heading bug. Buttons, buttons. Who's doing the buttons? Okay, that's all correct. Why is my... I'm going to have to reload this. I'm going to have to basically reload this airplane from scratch because it's doing some weird-ass things here. Really weird-ass things. Let's see. Like, for instance, it's not... There we go, pitch trim down, pitch trim up. Okay, that's correct. Flaps down, flaps up. Okay, that no longer works. That no longer works. That does work. All right, fine, whatever. So why is that popping up the heading bug and moving it? And look, it's now working. All right, there's obviously, we're just going to have to reinstall this airplane because it's obviously not doing what it should do. And let me just turn off the flight directors here and see if I can retrim. I guess sort of, kind of. Final notch of flaps, and we're going to do this by okay. Turn ourselves into a very quick base leg here. Yeah, obviously this needs some work. Okay, there's the end of the runway. Go. Okay, we're more or less on speed. Yeah, it's all screwed up. My enunciator is flashing heading here, which I suppose it should. I'd say some things are slightly cocked up.
500.
Checked. Yeah, you see how my heading in the upper left there is displaying? At least I got a good landing out of it. All right, well, we'll leave it right there, but before we leave it right there, let's Let's look at that landing, because that was pretty damn nice. Finally starting to crack the code on this thing. All right. That's no place.
Don't sink.
It's no place to put a
Don't
control
sink.
tower.
Don't sink.
Hang on a
Don't
second. My Garmin does that. So let's do this and do this and do this. That's a nice looking approach. Nice constant profile, not a lot of correcting. There we go. Is that going to pan, or am I going to have to pan? I'm going to have to pan. That's lovely. All right, let's just hang on. There we are. That is very nice. Beautiful. All right. Just see where my power settings were when I did that. All right, they're just eking above 20. And 600 feet down over the threshold, 120. Nice gentle flare. Look at that. All right. Now we know how to do it if we can only execute it. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to cut the video here. I'm going to reinstall the plane, and I'm going to see if I can get it working. Okay, we're back. Not only have we tried to fix the airplane, but we've repainted the damn thing. So we're now in Delta livery, Delta connection, and we're gonna have another go here at traveling from Martha's Vineyard to Portland. I don't think the flight directors are working still, and I don't exactly know why, because I reloaded the plane and I didn't make any changes in Plane Maker except at the trim, and obviously I can't get this Garmin to work, so this is my only real hope. And unfortunately, whatever the magic mojo is to properly drive the autopilot, it might not be working. So we might have to just hand fly this thing from the get-go without the flight director, which is going to be a little bit less fun than it otherwise might be. And we should be at 3010 for the altimeter. We're going to set our trim here, and we're going to turn on our taxi lights here. Make sure our auto Corson is set, and it is. Our bleeds are on at the moment. We're going to take off with the bleeds off. Just going to set our flaps to flaps 15. We are cleared to cross 33, but we'll take a look. Make sure nobody's doing anything foolish. It is the foolish person's runway, truth be told. It's the one used mostly by GA operations. Not that there's anything wrong with that, considering that I've just basically run off the taxiway here. And I'm taxiing at southwest speeds. Let's see. Not too bad. A shame there's nothing here in Cape Air livery. And you can see the CDI is accurate. The flight director is not. So we're going to just... What the hell was that? Okay, that should be our autopilot disconnect switch. Hang on one second. There are all sorts of things farkled up here. I'm just going to come to a halt. And I'm going to rebind our keys. Joystick. Buttons. Of course, we can't get them to actually work. No, why should they? One problem. I'm using something called virtual joystick, which basically creates a sort of fake joystick here out of my Brunner yoke. Ah, there we go. Takes a little while to wake up. Okay, that is correct. And now it is pushing on that. All right. There are a lot of things that don't seem to work entirely correctly here, but they disclaim that. I mean, this is a work in progress for X-Plane 11, and that autopilot should be disconnected, so that shouldn't be causing us trouble. But you see, our flight director is simply not moving. So I will bet you dollars to donuts. It's just, for whatever random reason, it ain't working. It's a shame. The plane flies like a dream. But we're probably going to have to hand fly it. It doesn't even seem to do a heading hold mode. We're probably going to have to do everything, sort of tune everything in as we grapple with flying it by hand. Okay, auto coursing needs to come on, and everything else is fine. Okay, warn our flight attendants. Trim is set, flaps are set, props are max, power lever is ground idle, CTOT is armed and set. We could go a little close to 100. We should be squawking altitude, and we are. We're squawking Kubrick as well. And let's check our windsock. Wind is coming from our right. Got a clean caution panel. We have an MCP that is set correctly, but I don't have any confidence whatsoever in it. And we should really, before we do anything else, set a altitude of 11,000. Although we might just do it for the alert. All right, that is set. And our tiller is on, so that's good. Again, we're going to have wind from our right. I'm going to put in a little bit of right aileron on the roll. And speaking of on the roll, let's just do it on the roll. Alright, engines are responding properly, airspeed is alive, CTOT is engaged, acceleration is nominal. This thing even has good ground handling for X-Plane. I mean, there's really very little that's bad about this airplane. I'm rotating a little bit fast because it climbs very sluggishly. So my standard call out here is going to be kind of sort of positive rate. And we'll come gear up. Pitch for 140, which is our first climb mode. We'll loop around here and we'll re-intercept our course. And watch. You see our flight director is just matching our direction of flight, and that's obviously not right. So we'll go by the HSI, and we'll also see if the autopilot flies it, because I'm not sure if it will. All right, we're at our acceleration altitude. We'll bring our props back. We will take our CTOT out, and we'll verify that it is out. And we'll now turn to reacquire our course, and we'll bug up now 160. There we go, hit IAS mode, and we'll clean up. And we'll be on our merry way here, even though it may not be especially merry. I'm just going to go into nav mode here and see if we will acquire an incline mode, and we'll just engage the autopilot and the yaw damper. Let's see if it does it. If it does, at least I'll be relatively happy. It might. No, it's just holding roll. See? Alright, something got screwed up in the installation or the reinstallation of this airplane, but it's very annoying. So we'll just hand fly it, which is going to be a little bit fun leveling off, but otherwise shouldn't be too onerous. We're going to fly to peak. We're going to fly across the mid-cape, and then we will fly direct to Marconi, and from Marconi we'll fly to Kennebunk. And I don't even think I can switch over. No, I'm not even displaying a CDI for the VOR. So I'm basically slaved, as it were, to this, which means I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to present a localizer. We'll see when we get there. Obviously, there's some work to be done here. This is the 1.4 version. The 1.5 version is supposed to be fully X-Plane 11 compatible. I'm just going to put on the yaw damper here if I can get my view to hold still. Just a little more comfortable ride. Turn off our landing lights. Let the passengers go and take a big Cleveland steamer. We've got wind from our left, and I'm just going to accelerate to about 180 for the climb here. Push the nose down a little bit. I've got a little teeny tiny bit of wind correction in. Not a lot. I'll just rebug our speed. That should do it. Let's retrim for a little bit higher speed here. Let's look at our engine temps. We're good. We're not breaking anything. What we will do, however, is turn on our bleeds. You know what? We took off with them closed, so we had enough performance. Let's get that nose down, trim down a bit. Want to be somewhat in the ballpark of our cruising speed by the time we hit our cruising altitude. 1,500 to go. Otherwise, we'll get too drastic a configuration change leveling off, so I'll just give it a nice little shove down. And now I'm basically just flying off the HSI. Our temperature is around icing territory, but we're not in any moisture. And we're a mile away from peak. We could be a mile away from Marconi. I'll just double check that in a second. All right, 1,000 to go. There's our warning. All right, there's our turn at peak. So actually we're getting reasonably good performance here. And I'm just going to slowly decrease our rate of climb, bring in our trim, and bring up our speed. And reacquire our course. Okay, 500 away. We'll bring our props back to around 1250-ish. I mean 12.5, I'm sorry. Notice how our torque shoots up. And our performance actually shoots up. That's more or less where we need to be. All right, we'll just let ourselves accelerate and nose down a bit. Not quite like that. Little runaway trim there. That's sticky switch. I blame society. Let's get stable, shall we? Still got another about 40 knots to go in speed, so I'm just going to nose down a little bit there. There we are. This is where you appreciate a first officer. All right, so, yep, we're heading inbound Marconi. And I'm a little high, so let me just let that correct. Let the nose come down. Let us descend a little bit. We're actually going to find that we reach an equilibrium probably just a little faster, and with our nose about another 2 degrees up, and we'll arrive at a nice trimmed speed. And we're getting 21 knots off of our left-hand side. To trim down even a bit more. There is Marconi Light. There's Provincetown. P-Town, as they say. And we'll pretend like we know what we're doing. You notice how using this thing just flipped our transponder to something else, but all right, we'll pretend we're flying visually right now. And let me just retrim a little bit here. Still a bit more. I feel like Cookie Monster. Is it trim yet? What about now? What about now? What about now? Not trim yet. Sorry, Cookie. What a beautiful sight. By the way, when we come over Provincetown, this is Ortho 4XP, and it looks so nice. Just letting ourselves dip down a little bit. And maybe 2 degrees of wind correction. There's a formula for it, and I don't remember, but it involves drawing lines off of your HSI and your CDI. And one day when I'm working on my instrument ticket, when I'm in my late 80s, I will make it a point of knowing. I don't think we're going to be able to fly an ILS approach, to tell you the truth. Maybe a GPS overlay, but it doesn't seem to be letting us. I don't think it's going to let us present here or there the localizer and glide slope. I hope I'm wrong, but there's Provincetown Airport. I suppose we could drop down there and stop in for lunch, but what are you going to do? Just glancing down at our cabin pressure down there. It is fine. And we're just hand flying, which is not the worst thing in the world, but I'm just at a little bit of a tweener for a trim setting, so I'm just going to creep back on the power ever so slightly and see if we can settle into our cruise. So I'm right in between trim settings and pull forces here. Just the tiniest little bit. There we go. So we'll be entering Boston airspace in a second. This is going to sequence our arrival. It just will not, it'll try to probably switch over to localizer frequency, and then it will fail. So, and there's Provincetown. It looks pretty damn good. And we're trimmed out, which is very, very nice. I disarm the auto Corson. Considering I can't find it, I guess we did. Alright, so there's our turn. I'm going to try and maintain altitude here. The yaw damper in. For a standard rate turn, we're doing a half standard. For standard rate, I'd want to have this right on the horizon, but as you can see, that's not really necessary at this speed or at this rate turn. We're kind of doing a half rate turn. We'll do a standard rate turn. And now I want to have that just right about there. You see right in the little crotch of this thing. So that's something to be to consider. And we'll roll out of it right about there and nibble our way back in on course. And here we go out over the ocean on the way to Kennebunk, Maine. I'm just using tiny little finger inputs on the controls. And it's a, it's a little bit of a handful to fly a perfect flight profile at speed, at altitude, at least in the fake plane. It's because the controls are just a little in between. But hardly the worst thing in the world. And I'm pulling a little bit too much at some point, so. But I don't want to do anything sudden because I'll get into an oscillation, you see. So you just want to just dance around with your fingertips. And I'm just going to give it one more notch of up trim. Because it will be in a light phugoid oscillation. In other words, it will go up and down, speeding up, slowing down, losing lift, gaining lift, until it finds its natural trimmed speed. And that's assuming that it's got neutral stability. If it's got a little bit of positive stability, it will try to hold whatever control input you put in. If it's got negative stability, it will overshoot in the other direction. So, just some things to consider. Just a little to the right, of course, here. And notice I don't have any wind correction plugged in right now, so let's just put some in. About 20 feet low as well. back in on course. And let's start to do a little descent prediction here as we, there, let me just stick this right there so it's on outside my field of view. Utilities, VCalc, target altitude, we'll make it 2,000 feet. Target waypoint SAAB, that's fine. Display the messages. I've discovered that the message it displays is approaching your descent point, but it never says descend now. So, go figure. And now I'm really drifting right of course here, so let me fix that. Alright. So you see, we could start descending right now if we descend at 400 feet per minute. We're not going to. We're going to descend at about 1,200 feet per minute, right on barber pole speed. And that means we got 15 minutes, give or take, till TOD. In the meantime, I'll learn how to hand fly this airplane. Now, our flight plan calls for us going to CK, which is an intersection out in the ocean, and then to Kennebunk, which puts us at the beginning of our approach, to SAAB, hold for 1 minute at SAAB, then into Pete, and on down. So let's see if we can find a chart here. Let's also correct our altitude. This is what happens when you're not paying attention. Just slightly in between on the trim. I don't have a real clean horizon, but I know it should be right around here. So, I mean, I could do this without anything else, but I would, fluctuate a little bit, as I am now. Seems like I'm a little bit prone hands-off to be descending, but there, I'm right in between a trim position. Off the power ever so slightly. With any luck, be able to find a little happy medium here. Oh, come on. Shouldn't have to work this hard for it. Alright, charts. All right, well, at least I'm on course. All right, so there's our hold. And, yeah, that wind is coming directly across us now. So we're going to enter the hold here. And we want to enter using a direct entry. Oh no, it's a no, it's a right turn hold. So we can get by with a teardrop entry. So we'll come in this way, teardrop around, and then come back to the fix and back up. And it's a 1 minute hold. All right, well, that should be fun. As we skate around the sky here. And we're about 10 minutes from our top of descent. And we want to be slow enough to fly that hole. We don't want to come barreling through that hole. That would be highly déclassé, shall we say. Again, I'm not really putting in enough wind correction, am I? And then I'm overshooting it. I got to learn that formula. Alright, that should do it. First I have to get reestablished, then I have to dial in the wind correction. So I think I'll go about a degree more to the left than I need to, and then ease back a degree. Okay, roll wings level there. And wait, count to about 5. Wait for that to come in. See, I drifted back again. Alright, let's do this the proper way. Let's put in some kind of semi-standard rate turn. 1.5 degrees per second. Half rate turn. And now we're going to have to do more. Temps look like they're fine. Our torque is fine. Alright, so there is our correction to get back on course. Try not to get blown back off of that. Now we're ever so slowly going to take out some of that. And we'll gently, gently, gently. There we go. And level out right about there. There we go. Slowly drift back on course. We're about 3 degrees to the left. And let's see where we are. Getting towards wheeze. We're going to want to... drifting out of that correction again. Leave some of it in. Alright. Okay, 7 minutes. To set more of a dead zone in my yoke, I think, because it's just a little bit sensitive in the middle thing. I can just sneeze and send it up and down a bit much. Alright, so we're coming up towards the Maine coast, or actually it's more like the New Hampshire coast, probably. Alright. Desired track of 356 coming up. We'll turn our heading to 356 just to anticipate it. Oddly enough, happens to be the course we're on. So there is with our wind correction here, and you can see we're just sort of holding our course. All right, 6 minutes away, so at about 7 past the hour, we'll start going down. Just going to start setting 2,000 here. This is where it gets squirrely here, flying by hand and doing this sort of stuff. I really hate. You can kind of do it by feel with the yoke, because you actually have a sense of the trim. For once, I'm actually drifting to the left of course. There we go. Altitude is set. Pardon me. All right, so there's CK. Go, and now we're back on track, and the wind is actually picked up from our left, so all right, there's our approach plate coming up automatically, which is great. And again, I'm not sure if we're going to get a localizer. Just in case, I'm going to set our course to 290, which is the approach course. Do that while I do everything else here. It's not a whole ton. So we're going to set our nav1 course right there. Just in case it switches us over and it actually works. Okay, we are in nav mode at the moment. And we're about 2 minutes from our TOD. Let's just seat the passengers right now. Get our lights on right now, because why should we screw around? Okay, so there is ENE, Kennebunk actually. And again, we're going to descend at about the same speed. We're just going to do it in IAS mode, and we're going to adjust our power until we're going down at about 1,200 feet per minute. Kennebunk port's right around there. See Bush's speedboat, and we're loading some scenery, so forgive the slowdown. Also makes the flying inputs a little bit squirrely. All right, we're back. And we're coming up on our TOD, and now we're loading weather. Just drifting down slightly. I'm not especially caring at this point. concerned with my lateral navigation here. Okay, 2 minutes away. And now we're getting 29 knots just about coming from this way. So, all right, get that out of the way, get that up. And there should be a message popping up any second saying it's time for us to descend or close to it. You know, we could probably, we're going to fly this visually, I'm sure. Just get a bad feeling. All right, we should be descending shortly. Remember, our hold is a minute long, and it's going to be a teardrop entry, so we're going to go in. Ordinarily, the flight director would show us how to do it, but we're just going to have to do it, and we're gonna come in this way. We're going to turn outbound to 110. All right, let's start to go down because there's our message. Approaching top of descent. Roll off the power here. Get ourselves back on course. I'm also going to get this out of the way quickly. So, just going to roll off the power and pitch for 200 and some until we're going down about 1,200 feet per minute. So I'm going to hold the pitch right there and keep our speed going about that much. There we go. Let the nose come down a little bit there, get us back on course. There we are. And that's actually about the torque we want to land at, so that wouldn't be a bad thing, necessarily. Now, I'm not going to be able to twiddle our heading knob when we go into this. I'm just going to have to memorize the numbers for the hold, which is 110 outbound, 290 inbound. There's our turn at Kennebunk. I'm just going to overshoot that a little bit. Not too much. Okay, so now we're going to go inbound to our hold. No, as a matter of fact, I undershot it. Okay, so there we go. Just shortcutted it a little bit. So we're going to be making a right turn to about 110. And we're going to time that for a minute. Then we're going to come around and reacquire the track. And if we're low enough, we'll just forego the rest of the hold. All right, there we go. A little sloppy. Reestablish ourselves in our descent. Making everybody a little bit sick in the back there. All right, so there we are. We're now inbound. We're 22 miles to SAAB. just going to shallow out our descent a little bit there, slow us down a little bit, turn us in a little bit. There we go. Got a little bit of wind coming from our left. So I'm just going to correct for that right now. There we are. And again, when we get to SAAB, we're going to turn to 110. And let me just bug that up. Okay, we're going to bug 110. This is the element of a hold, which is the turn. There is the twist, and that's what we're bugging right now. And then there's the time, and we're going to go one full rotation of the second hand. Just a little to the left, of course. Keep our descent coming. We're 16. Now it is suggesting, yeah, it's suggesting a teardrop entry. Good. All right. So we figured that out correctly. I'm going to roll off our power a little bit, increase our rate of descent. I don't want to let the power get too low because I don't want to make gratuitous power configuration changes as I come down. I'll just stay on track here. Can we see the airport? Not yet. Right about there. Alright, so we're going down about 1,100 feet per minute. That's about right for our speed. We are theoretically visual, but let's fly the procedure. And we'll basically actually, yeah. We'll cross the fix and we'll fly outbound actually on our other heading, and we'll come back in to 290. So let me just fix that. All right. 10 miles to go and 3,000 feet. That's about right. I just shot through that, didn't I? Get us back on course. Alright, so now we're bugged for our final inbound. And we are 2,800 away and 8 miles. We're a little high, but not too much. Don't forget, we're going to be flying outbound for a couple miles in the hold and then turning around, so there we go. And actually, I'm going to slow down. I'm going to get a notch of flaps out. So I'm just going to nose up for a second to get us below 195, give or take. And our wind is dying down, so we're going to fly that almost on the button now. There we go. 5 miles away and about 1,500 above. That's not bad. A little high, maybe a couple hundred feet high, so I'm just going to increase our rate of descent right there. And I'll get in a notch of flaps, and that should slow us down a chunk. I'll retrim. So again, fly outbound for about 45 seconds and we'll do a procedure turn that way. Okay, now I'm going to start to level off and roll in a little bit more power. Okay, 2 miles away, 600 above, that's damn near perfect. Okay, as soon as we cross, hold teardrop, it enunciates. That is very nice. And actually the hold is going to let us drop our altitude all we need. I'm just going to slow down to a nice entry speed. And as I bring up the nose, I'm just going to crank in ever so slightly more power. And now around we'll go. Okay, I'm going to level out right here. And actually I'm going to fly outbound for just a little chunk of the way here. Yeah, I've turned in too much, so just fly outbound a little bit. There we are. Maintain level flight. Retrim. Come on around. Be a little bit outside the holding area, but we should be able to do it. Nice speed. Standard rate turn right there. I do need to turn off the yaw damper. In on our, well, quasi-localizer, I suppose you'd call it. Yeah, I don't think this is going to work. Let's just see if it works. In the meantime, we are 2 miles from our final approach fix. Fighting our way back to course. No, it's not presenting. All right, so it's not presenting our localizer at all. So we'll just fly this as an advisory, and we'll just do step downs here. So we're what, 5.5 miles out. Let's get our gear down. Or we're 5.5 miles from our final approach fix, but we're visual. And we're established more or less. Get another notch of flaps out. Bring in another knob of power. There we are. We got nil winds, which is good. A little bit low. Fix that. We need to slow anyway, and I need to retrim badly. There we are. Overdid it a touch. There we go. Alright, we're nicely established inbound. This plane just wants to fall right out of the sky. Okay, gear down, 3 greens. We've got 1 more notch of flaps to go. Props full, lights on, signs on. And there we go. Yeah, we're not going to get any real guidance here. So we're 7.3 miles away. We're a little bit low then, but it's okay. Let's just level off here. Our next stage of flaps and about a little bit less power should do us. I can see the runway, so I can see we're just a little bit left of it. Rid of that, don't need it. I'm just doing this visually now. Okay, bring in our final notch of flaps and let's get ourselves into a nice, smooth 600 foot per minute descent. Slow us down to just a skosh over 120. We had a nice landing before on our way back into Martha's Vineyard there to get this thing fixed. Actually, I have a nice rate of descent here, but I'm a little bit fast, so let me just come off the power, bring up the nose to just about nose level. Back the trim. There we go. Need a little bit more. Checked. And as stable as we're going to get. Right on speed, our power is right where it should be. I'm going to slowly ease out the power coming over the piano keys. And it looks like I'm more nose up than I am. Alright, wasn't perfect. Rolled off a little too much power. Oh, come on. Alright, there we go. Roll out of beta. Flight idle, manual braking. Bring up the flaps. Alright. Landing lights can come off. Taxi lights can come on. And look at that, it's a United Airlines 747 here in Portland, kids. Awesome. All right. Well, that was certainly quite the flight. Certainly a lot of fun. It's a beautiful plane. It really is. It'll get there. It will definitely get there. So. It'll certainly get there. Let's get on ground power here. All right. And at the end of a nice day of flying with a 747 there sticking out halfway onto the runway, we'll leave it right there and bid you a fond farewell from here in Portland, the mighty SAAB, and see you all again next time. Bye-bye.